For a session presented by Amadeus, please welcome the Senior Vice President of Airlines in Southeast Asia, India Subcontinent, and Greater China for Amadeus, Jonathan Tong, in conversation with SkiftX Content Director, Alison McCarthy.
Hi, Jonathan. Welcome. Great to have you here today.
Thanks, Alison. Happy to be here.
So today we're talking about how airlines can use customer data to create better, more tailored experiences for travelers. So tell us what we're looking at today. What's the industry getting right, and then what are the big challenges?
Sure. I think we are entering an era of hyper-personalization. So airlines have been aspiring to do this for the last many, many years. And by and large, they are investing a lot in new tech, infrastructure, cloud, applications, so on and so forth. But I think airlines, most of them globally, are on different levels of maturity. For the most part, we've seen some airlines at least having some first view, a 360 view of the customer. And then they are starting some basic level of personalization, more contextualized. For example, when you enter their website, on their portal, they understand who you are. They'll start to personalize a little bit, the landing pages, things like that. The more advanced airlines, I would say, they are really doing something special. They are personalizing all the way into the booking flow. So even being able to curate offers and then have personalized servicing and upselling to the customers. Well, in terms of challenges, I'm not going to say the data is siloed, because that is something that always exists and we always have to solve for. Yep. But I will name two. I think the first one is really making sure you have a good set of data. Now, to me, a robust set of customer data is a combination of structured data, all the P&R that an airline has, combining it with unstructured ones, so your third-party or first-hand data like shopping behavior on the website, on the different digital touch points, and then making sense of it to give you insights and making sure it's actionable. A lot of airline CIOs sometimes call me and we are discussing and they say, I have my 360 view, but I do not know what to do with it. Okay, so it has to be actionable. And the second thing I would say is being able to sit down with cross functions in an airline and decide exactly what problem or what personalization use case you're trying to create. And very often it's not just one department, it has to be across all. You probably need your ecosystems of providers and in-house systems to come together and decide how you achieve that. And that's something that don't happen a lot, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Right, and that goes back to that silo that you mentioned earlier. Right. So I want to dig a bit deeper into how advanced data analytics and technology fit in. So how can AI, machine learning, cloud technologies help airlines build a more comprehensive view of the traveler?
Yep, sure. I think AI, ML, and all these technologies are a must when it comes to optimizing and achieving all the use cases that I mentioned earlier on. I think every CIO, CTO will agree with that. Definitely, you can leverage that. So back to the customer data. Take, for example, you need to put that all together. It's not going to be easy if you do it manually. And if you look at, for example, Alison, yourself, right? I'm sure an airline, your favorite airline has your data. But there are probably multiple Alison, McCarthy in that system, in their profiles. Now, how do they identify that it's the same person? Because sometimes you book with your personal email, sometimes with your corporate email, sometimes you make the booking through TMCs or the airline direct or through an OTA. So you need such technologies to be able to say, this is the same person, let's merge the profile. And when someone comes into the website and start booking, then you need those technologies to say, this is this Alison McCarthy and not the other. All right, and then personalize accordingly. Another area where you can leverage such technology after you have the customer 360 is things like customer lifetime value. So you know the value of this customer to you as an airline. You can also use these technologies to do churn risk assessment. So, for example, if you know that this traveler is no longer coming to your website, not visiting, not booking, then you may have different engagement or retention tactics that you want to deploy. Then, of course, when it comes to price optimization as well, so something that we did with airlines, we call it dynamic pricing. This is where when we understand who the customer is, but in the point of shopping itself, when they are on your website, we also help the airline assess what the competition is at that point in time. And then looking at customer choice modeling, willingness to pay, willingness to buy, we will help the airline adjust the price dynamically to secure and close the transaction. And this has proved for the airlines that are using this tech an upside of 3% in annual revenue. So this is definitely another area. Then of course, the very hot topic of generative AI and conversational AI, airlines have started to move into that space as well to engage their customers.
Yeah, so getting a bit deeper into the different tools, I know Amadeus does a lot of work in the biometric space, and we're seeing this rolled out across many, many airlines and airports. So yeah, what are we looking at? How is the industry using biometrics right now, and how do you think it will, what will it look like down the line 5, 10 years from now?
Yeah. Well, biometrics, I think it's going to be the one that really bring the seamless travel experience that we all want in this industry. It's nothing new, okay, but before I explain that, I think we cannot talk about biometrics and not talk about digital identities, because the two go together, and that will pretty much paint the future for us as you have asked. But back to biometrics, again, nothing new. Back in 2018, I think even for us, we started doing some trials with airlines like Lufthansa, where we actually did biometrics boarding for an A380, so a few hundred passengers, and we boarded an A380 in 20 minutes. Okay, so, and since then, a lot of airlines have started to use that. Even today, for example, for those of you who fly through Hong Kong International Airport, same thing, once you do your check-in, there is a biometric scan, they associate it to your booking. You don't actually have to take up your boarding pass anymore all the way to the plane. Okay, so airlines, airports, they're starting to do that. Now, the digital identities that I talk about, this is another problem in the industry. How many of you notice when you do a flight, you have to take out your passport many, many times, right? First at the check-in, then at immigration, and then at boarding. If you have a car rental or if you have a hotel, you have to take it out as well. Now, imagine a world where we have all your identities digitized, right? Digital identities plus biometrics will give us the North Star for the industry as what I call your face is your passport. So imagine a journey where I'm making a booking right now. I open up my mobile phone, facial recognition on the airline app. They know who I am. They personalize the offer. Payment is a breeze because they know my preferred payment method. And then when I get to the airport, I don't even have to go to a check-in counter. Maybe a backdrop, facial recognition. They have all my data. I go through its security, border control. I board my plane. I go to the hotel and the car rental. And again, it's all facial recognition. Now, for this to happen, though, there needs to be a cross-vertical industry collaboration, which unfortunately isn't happening enough. We see a lot, like I said, in airlines and airports, but I think this is where the potential is, to really bring things together.
Yeah, I really like that idea, like not having to depend on this little piece of paper for your entire trip.
Exactly.
Can you give an example of an airline that is successfully using data to deliver personalized messaging, services, et cetera?
Sure. Well, Amadeus, we work with many, many airlines globally, and personalization is one of their secret sauce. So I'm not too comfortable about talking about a certain airline, but what I can do is maybe bring up some examples without naming them. So personalization, those who have done it well, one use case is, for example, when you finish your flight booking. Now, a lot of websites today and airline sites sometimes, they will just redirect you to a white label site and you can do search for hotels and cars. Okay, so some of the airlines we work with, based on the flights, based on what they know of you, whether it's a leisure or travel or business travel, they will then customize an offer for car rental and hotels. Okay, so that's inflow and it's a lot faster. Another use case that I really, really like, and this is with one of my favorite airlines. So they with the customer 360 scoring, they also have this thing called a disruption matrix. So if they know they have impacted your travel and there was a bad experience, then the disruption matrix, actually the score goes up. And when it hit a certain point, the AI ML kicks in to actually then prompt the airline to then take a recovery action. So there was this one time I was flying with this airline, and I fly a lot with them, and on that flight, everything that can go wrong went wrong, right? Now, 10 days later, I had a flight, and it was back from Europe to Singapore. And I was on premium economy because it was an internal work meeting. And I believe they captured all that because I got an upgrade. Okay, and with this airline, upgrade is very, very rare. Okay, I'm not encouraging you to give bad feedback to your airline, but then that's not a way to get an upgrade. But yeah, so I believe that they saw my customer lifetime value, knowing I travel a lot for work, and they use that and really do a service recovery. And in my mind, when I received that, I was like, wow, this airline really cares, and I would continue to fly with them. So that's a very good example.
Yeah, they're paying attention. So this being Skift India Summit, let's talk about how this is all playing out in India. So what does today's Indian traveler expect from an air travel experience from when they're researching, booking, actually on the trip itself, and then returning home? And then second part of my question, how are Indian Airlines embracing all this? How are they making this happen?
Yep. I think we all heard today that the Indian traveler is very tech savvy and they're very open to use new technology and things like that. I think it was even back in 2020, we read that for the internet users in India, more than 50% of them are actually accessing the internet through their phones. And we also read many times in many research that India is one of the few economies in the world where they basically skipped the laptop and desktop generation, right? And it went straight to mobile. And early on, Skift, you had a research that showed that the e-commerce payment in India is like really up there, topping the charts compared to other countries. I mean, this is proof that the Indian traveler is very tech savvy and willing to try things. And back in, I think it was probably 2020, when Amadeus, we did a research as well, it showed that 66% overall in Asia, the travelers are willing to release personal information so that they get personalized offers and personalized servicing. And India was definitely right on top up there. So they're definitely savvy. The airlines are responding very, very well. If you look at all the local airlines here, a lot of them have chatbots. And the chatbots are not the simple ones just responding to questions. They're helping with services, they're helping with disruption, even Air India. So I was talking to Dr. Satya, the CTDO, and he was telling me that, and he mentioned this in a news article as well, that since they launched their AI chatbot, they had 20,000 queries through the chatbot without going through, and 93% did not go through it to a human agent to solve. Okay, so there's a lot of willingness to try new tech for sure. Yeah.
So very quickly, last question. What's one piece of advice you would give to those here who want to build an effective customer data strategy?
Well, for whether you're an airline, you're an airport, an OTA, I think my advice is look forward to new technologies. Our industry, unfortunately, I would say because of the way we were in the past, we are the only ones having PNR and ticket. Right? We need to move out of this. You talk about having customer data and having to do a good personalized offer. You think about Flipkart, the biggest e-commerce player here in India. They do that seamlessly. Now, airlines, we can't do that because we are stuck with a PNR and e-ticket. So it's time to move. And a few airlines like Finnair and Saudia, they are working with us to really move out of that. So that transition needs to start. So that's my encouragement. Take that first step.
Great insights here, Jonathan. Thanks so much for being here and joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Alison.